Welcome everyone to another episode of Pommy Ponders Live. I'm joined by our first female guest on the live show, and it's a very special one as well, the wonderful Marnie from the Further North podcast and Besties fame. You'll be familiar with the Besties people in chat. Marnie, how are you doing?
I am so good. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Pommy. I'm up and about this weekend, as I'm sure you are too. So I'm very excited.
It's good. North had a win, and I mean, that leads me on to it. Marnie, tell us, how did you get into, firstly, being a North super fan, but also getting into the world of YouTube sports casting? It's a weird way to enjoy your sports team, showing everyone the highs and lows, but how did you find it?
Yeah, so my dad's a North supporter, and that is how I got into it. Very self-explanatory there. He took me to my first game. I think I was about 6 or 7 years old, and funnily enough, it was about 2 years of losses before I saw my first North win. So I feel like I'm living that again, nearly 2 decades on. The first win that I actually ever saw North live was against the Blues, believe it or not. It was in 2003, I want to say, and we won by 124 points in the last round. So it was either 2002 or 2003, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster since then. I was just a fan for quite a while, and then in my later high school years, I decided I wanted to be a journalist, so I started a blog in 2011 called the North Melbourne Opinion. It's a real throwback. And it sort of just started from there. I guess back in 2011, it wasn't such a saturated market like we've got now. And so it was easier to sort of break through. And obviously being a female, it's less common that we do, have women who are so into sport, and particularly footy out there. Obviously things have changed now and things are changing, which is incredible. So I was sort of one of the first. So to be able to kind of break into the market, and then I've been podcasting for a while now, and then obviously I joined the Besties at the start of the year as well. So it's all fun and games. I think for North in particular, it's a small club. I never had any North friends growing up either. It was just myself and my dad and my brother. So to be able to connect with other North fans and then other footy fans and just get so into it has been a joy. And this year, while it's been really, really tough for North, I've been loving footy more than ever, weirdly enough. So that's sort of a summary of where I've been and how we've got here. So yeah,
I love it. I make a habit of getting the guests on and researching you. Now, obviously, I came familiar with you because you did the show with Terry. And one of the special things about you, Marnie, is you're a little bit kooky, if you don't mind me saying. Now, I'm known for being a bit out there, so I was really excited. It was a no-brainer when I watched you. I was like, I've got to get her on because this will be fun. But this leads us on to our first subject because you're a bit like me. You love your people that don't get any love. So I know you're a huge Hugh Greenwood fan. So
I am.
We're going to talk about unheralded roles, the roles that people don't get any love for. What for you makes you love the people that aren't the A-list stars?
You know what? It actually started in 2019. So this is my like famous scarf for those who haven't seen it. And this, for those who remember, it's got to be the last Jasper Pittard badge in existence, I would say. And that's what started it all. Jasper Pittard came to North as part of the Steak Knives deal when Jared Pollock came across, and Jasper Pittard ended up being the star of the two. I use the word star super loosely there. But it was one of these things where everyone was like, oh, like, Pittard's no good. And North had tried to get Jasper to come across a few years earlier. He'd made the All-Australian squad in 2015. And around that time, they tried to bring him over, and unsuccessfully in the end of 2018 with Pollock, he came across, right? And so I was like, surely this guy can't be that bad. We've tried to chase him for years now. Like, how bad can he really be? And he wasn't really that bad. Like, he was okay. He really was okay, especially in that first year. He finished 10th in our best and fairest in 2019. And that's kind of how it started. And the more I started, like, hyping him up, other people sort of started to get on board. And then I met Jasper, and then we sort of became friends, and we kind of rode the highs and lows together and all that sort of thing. And unfortunately, he was delisted at the end of 2020, and then Hugh Greenwood came to the club at the end of 2021. And then that was the next player that it started. And the more I've watched footy, the more I've become involved with North, it becomes less about, obviously it's about their on-field performance, but it also becomes about who they are as people. And Hugh Greenwood's one who he's just completely embraced me and all my kookiness and all my nuffiness. And, he goes out of his way time and time again to make the North Melbourne experience positive for me. And obviously the last few years, it's no surprise, it's been pretty dire being a North fan. So to have someone like that on your side, it's not many people get the pleasure of saying that, obviously. And I know it's a very privileged position to be in, but definitely not one I take for granted either. So that's kind of where it started. And now I've sort of become known for it. And I just wear it as a badge of honor, clearly all my badges. So
it's good. There's been a few. I mean, I remember Aaron Mullet coming to Cow, and he was a North boy.
Yeah.
And I reference Aaron Mullet a lot on Blue Abroad. But it's amazing that you've got one at the moment. Shadow Light, I know they're a big North fan as well. Zach Fisher, you've got one of ours. One man's trash is another man's treasure. How are you finding Zachy?
Look, honestly, it was trash for the first few weeks there. I'm not gonna lie. He had a bit of a slow start, poor old fish, and I gave him a roast on the podcast after we played St Kilda. He was god awful. Like, his disposal was just no good and really just horrible. And he must have listened to the episode, obviously, because he hasn't put a foot wrong since then, right? And especially on the weekend, he was excellent. He was unbelievable this weekend. And I think we've really, it's been it's been a team thing. I don't think it's just on Fish. I think it's obviously been a slow start for him, but we've had a lot of new faces in the side, be it debutants, be it players come across from other clubs, and then the players we've had for a few years in the side haven't played with those players. So I think he's probably just a victim of the system, but on the weekend it all just kind of clicked and it all kind of worked. And he's sort of been the maestro leading the ball out of our defensive 50 now. And I mean, he's got great skill, and now that he's comfortable, he can execute properly. So we're absolutely loving him. And, a few of my Carlton friends, when he left at the end of last year and came over, they were like, oh, look after him. We love Fish. I mean, what did you think of him, Pommy? Like, what did you think when he left? Were you sad? Were you like, oh, not such a big deal? Because he sort of was struggling to keep his spot.
I'm probably the worst, because when a player leaves, like, they might as well have just, like, cheated on me. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're completely dead to me. I have no emotion. But I have to admit, Terry was obsessed. So people in chat, Paul will back me up, and Bevton, Terry was obsessed with Zach Fisher. That was his boy. So he was someone that Terry forced me to like. I'm glad he's playing for you, because I feel like the best place for him to go is a team where he probably is at the age where he needs to be the star, where at Carlton he was kind of just a guy who was Cripps' mate. No disrespect to him, where I feel like he can form his own identity. And I think it's wonderful, because chatting with you, Marnie, you're at like where Carlton were 5 years ago. And I feel like you don't appreciate in the media the guys working their ass off. Everyone looks at LDU at your team and Sheasel. But I look at your team and I love seeing like Darcy Tucker dig deep and Tom Powell, get their hands dirty and be willing to do the hard stuff in a team that is really getting overrun every week.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the thing with, I think, North in particular, and a lot of North people have, gripes about the way the media treat us. I mean, you look at Nick Larkey's a really good example, right? Like, we've known for a few years that Nick Larkey's pretty much going to be a star, right? But it wasn't until round 23 last year, he kicks 9 and then he ends up making the All-Australian side. You look at someone like Ben Brown, right? And sorry to sort of divert, but it comes back to it. Ben Brown kicked 60 plus goals for North 3 seasons in a row and never made the All-Australian side, right? And he played at North, he played at North when it was a little bit more success in sort of 2018, 2019, but we didn't make finals in those times. And he probably should have, but I think because he plays for North, people just, they're just not noticed the same way that they would if they played for a Collingwood or, a Sydney or a Carlton or whatever. So I think that I've sort of taken this role on like accidentally just liking a few fringe players, and now I kind of feel like it's my duty to hype them up. I'm a big Darcy Tucker fan as well, and that just rubs a lot of people up the wrong way. But I love, it's the workhorse thing, it's the effort. I think a lot of North fans have questioned the effort, especially in the first sort of half of the year, and I've definitely questioned it at times too, because I sit there and I know I care, but do you even care? Like, it doesn't look like it. But someone like Darcy Tucker, all right, his disposal needs work, sure, but like so does 99% of the team. That's why we're 18th and we've just won our first game only now. So you've got to find the little wins, and Clarko always talks about the little wins. So someone like Tuck giving effort, or someone like Aiden Core, who's just found form in the last month as well. I mean, he basically saved the game for us in the last 40 seconds on Saturday night. I'll be banging on about that for the rest of eternity. Like, I just that for me was the moment. So I think, and we're fans and we're passionate and we love it, and you're the same. We're here to praise those guys because it's important to us. No, bloody Tom Morris doesn't care about North. He just cares about the story, and that's his job. Do you know what I mean? But I care about North, and I care about Darcy Tucker, and I care about Hugh Greenwood and all these guys because it's we're the fans. So. Yeah.
Do you feel like me as well? Because I've been big on the guy behind me, Alex Chincotta, since he came to Carlton.
Yes.
That when everyone starts to notice him, you feel like a proud dad or a proud mum almost. That it's like, yes, he's finally getting the love he deserves.
Yeah. Every week when Hugh Greenwood doesn't get named, there's a bunch of angry tweeters and comments on Instagram, Facebook. Where's Hugh Greenwood? Play Hugh Greenwood. And I was like, I started this. This is my thing.
It's great. No, it's a great feeling, and it's good as well, because I remember when we were like North Melbourne, and everyone used to put, and it leads me on to my next one, waiting for the good times. Everyone seemed to put all the pressure on the superstars who are young. So you've got, in my opinion, the best player in his draft class, Harry Sheasel, and he's obviously going up against Nick Dacos, who's a pretty good footballer himself. But he's got a hard job, hasn't he? Because it feels like if a lot's expected on basically a baby.
Pretty much. And I think like a lot of comments that came out sort of in the first, because we've got co-captains, right? I don't know what you think of co-captains. I think for North right now, it's probably the right fit because we don't, in my opinion, we don't have one player that's strong enough to be a captain at this point, right? Jack Zabel was a really, really strong captain. And I think his work is probably really underrated about what he sort of did for North. So I think co-captains at the moment is probably a good thing for us. I think Sheasel as a like there's been a lot of calls for Sheas to be captain, in particular the first sort of 3 to 4 weeks when things were like, we had a really rough patch to start the season. It's too young. Like, you've actually just got to let him play. And I mean, you look at past players who have been promoted to captain at 2021. I mean, Ben Cousins and Wayne Carey are probably the two that I could speak of straight off the bat. How did that turn out? Like, it didn't really turn out very well, did it? And it's just so much pressure to put on someone. So I think just let him play. And I think someone like LDU, there's also been calls to make him. He's not a leader. Like, yes, he leads with his actions on field, but I just don't think he's captain, and that's actually okay. I think players being good for what they can do with the ball in hand, but not necessarily being a leader, I think that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've all got players like that, and sometimes you just need to let these players, like, you look at Carlton, right? Like, Carlton's got plenty of stars. Okay, you've got, let's just say, like, you've got Charlie Kerno, you've got Harry Mackay, you've got Sam Walsh. I mean, Sam Walsh is probably captain in waiting. He's just, needs time. But you separate Cripper from those three guys, and those three guys are superstars, and they just play, and they just do what they need to do. Wiedering, this, like, there's so many, right? But Cripper is a captain, and he's someone that can definitely step up, when the situation sort of demands on him. I think Sam Walsh is probably the same, but he just needs some time, right? So it's too much pressure. And, we already know how much pressure these players receive off field. I think the media cycle contributes to it. And the fact that it's a full-time gig and it's a 24/7 thing. Some guys just need time to develop and need time to play. And then others can actually step into that captaincy role for sure.
I think you've nailed it, because I think when Carlton, we had Mark Murphy as our captain when we were poor. And I think it actually ruined his career because everyone blamed him. He was like the fall guy for the rebuild. Like, I think Carlton fans, we look back at Murphy and half hate him, half love him, but they hate him because we were rubbish when he was captain. And it's like, you kind of think it's not his fault. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure. But
100%.
we were in the situation like you. No one was really man enough to be the leader. He was like the oldest guy there who was willing to do it. No one else was. And I agree. I think if Sheasel becomes the leader, like it's way too much pressure for him to worry about when he's trying to work on his own game.
And you look at someone like Coniglio, right? And I think what Stephen Coniglio at the Giants did was really brave. Captain for what was it, 2 or 3 seasons? Form went completely downhill, acknowledged that he wasn't captain material and said, I can't do this, passed the baton on to Green, and then he just was able to work on himself and just do what he does best. Some guys, that what they do best is just play footy, and it's as simple as that. We can't expect every superstar to also have captain potential, and we can't expect every superstar, to win every single game. And, you can't expect one player to turn a tide. And I think that we have such high expectations on these players. We actually need to play them rather to their strengths. And so that's why, for me, maybe we'd see Harry Sheasel as a captain one day, but I don't think he's the next in line. Personally, I would put Larky. I think Larky should be captain in the next 2 or 3 seasons. When McDonald retires, or he wants to step away. I don't know. After the weekend, maybe my thoughts have changed on Simpkin being a solo captain, but I still think Larky's definitely the strongest choice in the medium sort of term, and then maybe Harry Sheasel in the long term. But yeah, it's a tough thing because, like I said, we expect and it takes a lot. Like Stephen Coniglio, of him to put his hand up, I mean, that's such a rare thing. Say I'm actually not. This is not for me. And I've got so much respect for him for acknowledging that because it's probably benefited the Giants as a whole. So, yeah, I think, we're going to talk about the pressure that a lot of players are under, and they feel the pressure as well, undoubtedly. And we know that, and we'll talk about that. And so, yeah, I think just let Sheasel play. Let him play.
I agree. And how do you take me back? Because you know what? I was actually saying to Terry before I came on here, sometimes I think you can forget what it's like to struggle. Like, I think when you start to win, like I've been watching some of my old videos and seeing me almost have a borderline nervous breakdown when we had 3-4 wins. And it feels like a lifetime ago, but I lived it. Take us through, Marnie, what gets you going? Because I've watched your videos, you find a wonderful way to be positive about everything. When the world is burning, you're finding that one thing. Talk to us about being a North fan. What gets you going every week?
Oh, I'm delusional. I'm absolutely delusional. I kid you not, I managed to genuinely convince myself before every single game that we're a chance to win, right? Because I don't want to think that we're not. I mean, I'd like to think that every single time we step out on that field, we are a genuine chance to win. I mean, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I mean, no one would have, it's funny, right? The commentary 2 weeks ago was that North could be the first team to have a winless season, right? Then we come out, we go over to Perth. I mean, some of the best sides struggle to win in Perth, no matter where West Coast or Fremantle sit, right, on the ladder and in form. And we go over, we beat West Coast by 9 points. And then the commentary is, oh, well, it was just West Coast. No. I've been celebrating for 48 hours straight. I'm not messing about. I'm not messing about, okay? But it's funny, sometimes everyone knows Jazz, who's one half of the Besties, and sometimes I'll messaging her during a game, and I'm like, oh no, we're 6 goals down at 3/4 time. I'm like, oh no, we're still in this, and she's like, girl, you're delusional, give it up. But I genuinely believe it. That's the thing. It's a bit sick, I know, but I genuinely believe it. I just convince myself of it. The key to getting through the hard times is making it not just about footy. I know that's stupid because it's footy, and footy is pretty much my life, but make it about things other than footy. I go to the footy every single week with my dad and my brother. We've been going together for 2 decades. That's so special to me. I love that. That's precious to me, and I always sit with them. The podcast is great, good therapy. The Besties is obviously a lot of fun, and it's great to get people involved and meet so many people. And then if all those things fail, just find a good team and bandwagon them like I've done with baggers this year.
It's great when you said delusional, because I that hits home, because I genuinely believe, like 2018, we won 2 games, and like we were probably the worst side ever. Like, we were so bad. But every week,
yes, terrible.
But every week I was like you. Like, I would look at them, look at their game, and be like, okay, I think we can win this. And game day came, and I genuinely would have put my mortgage on Carlton winning, even though I was an idiot. But I agree that blind faith got you through it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You have to. Honestly, like, you need something to believe in, and I'm not going to. Trust me, I know where North's at. Okay, like but like, also, ignorance is bliss, and denial is bliss. And I'm having one of the best seasons I've had. I'm more involved in footy now than I've ever been before. I'm going to more games now than I've ever gone to before, and I'm loving life. And my team's rubbish, and I totally understand that. But you know what? I've just made it. I've owned it. I've made it my personality. And like I said, I embrace it. Whatever it is, it's fun. And I also know that, obviously that win on the weekend was incredible. And like, being there, I know that we're going to win another couple games this season, and I know I'll be there for at least one of them. We play the Suns in a few weeks' time. It's actually my birthday that day. It's my 30th birthday that day, and I'm having a birthday party at the footy, and we are winning that game. Like, I know they're going to know it's my birthday. They're going to play Hugh Greenwood, and we're going to win that game, and I will celebrate until the end of time.
Yeah, you've got to take your wins. Like, Beach is in chat; he's a big Carlton boy. You've got to, that's the thing that annoys me, and it's a very AFL culture thing. That if a side wins, instantly we've got to downplay the win. Like, there has to be a reason for a side losing. It can't be North won. It has to be, like, I heard someone say, but West Coast didn't have Harley Reid, and I'm like, he's a kid. Like, he's a baby.
We don't have Harley Reid either. We managed to win, so have at it. Have at it, West Coast fan. Or it was the umpiring, apparently, on Saturday night. Maybe just try and not kick 17 behinds. That's a good start, West Coast. And also, like, we played out of our skins. We should have been further up in front. We should have been in front at quarter time. And we should have been further up in front at halftime, because we dominated most of that first half. We just couldn't convert, and we just couldn't actually get. I mean, our execution into the forward 50 has been our biggest issue for North all season, and it really showed on the weekend, because we had an opportunity to get further in front, and we just couldn't take it, because we just kept turning the ball over. We just kept kicking it. I mean, West Coast has the best intercepting defense in the competition still. You've got McGovern, you've got Barras, and you've got Cole. I mean, that's been the staple since 2018. That hasn't changed. They're still an incredible intercept side, and we just kept playing into it. You'd think, I mean, they've only been doing that for the last 8 years. You'd think we would have known by now that's what they were doing. Clearly haven't learned our lesson, but we still found a way to win, so it's fine. Whatever.
Whatever. What I've enjoyed, I think you've got a great president there. I think she's really changed the game, and she's put a lot of faith in Clarkson. I think Clarkson, he divides the AFL, doesn't he?
He does.
I find it funny, because I've seen a lot of Carlton fans hate on Clarkson, but I remember 3 years ago, everyone wanted Clarkson. I was Clarkson in as well. I'll put my hand up. But how is it going with Clarkson? Because obviously we've seen Hawthorn; they've stripped their side. You guys are going a little bit more of a measured approach, but I like the fact you're bringing in these Darcy Tuckers to protect the kids. How are you finding Clarkson?
I personally love Clarko, and I know that's, like you said, it's you either love him or you hate him. I think it's a bit of a witch hunt, to be honest, with Clarko. I think, like, nothing he does is going to be right. Do you know what I mean? I think there's, like, this target on the back, and everything constantly under the microscope, and every little thing he does that could be questionable is just over dramatized, and people just love to hate him, right? I just think it's stupid. The thing with Clarko, there's two things. The first thing is that Clarko missed half of last year, right? So he missed, I think it was 8 or 9 matches, and Brett Ratten came in, and I mean, we fought hard, but we didn't win a game. I think if Clarko was in charge for the whole of last year, there would have been 2 or 3 of those games under Brett Ratten we would have won. Do you know what I mean? I just think that Rat's coached Carlton too, so I'm sure you would definitely understand it. It's not he's a great guy, and but is he a good coach? I don't think so. No disrespect. You can be a nice guy, but not a great coach, and that's kind of what he was. But he stepped up in a time where we really needed it. So that's the first thing. Clarko's only coached 20 games or something for North, so we need more time. The second thing is that I've never, ever seen in my life so many people obsess at the moment about how irrelevant North is. We're so irrelevant, but you can't stop talking about us. And Clarko, I think, has thrown us into the spotlight. And I think Clarko's made North relevant. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, the press is bad. The press is bad. But we're 18th on the ladder. We've had a pretty rough last few years. And if this was, and again, no disrespect, just if it was St Kilda, if it was the Bulldogs, I mean, does anyone even care about them? Does anyone talk about them? Not really. No offense if anyone's watching that goes to St Kilda or the Bulldogs. I mean that in the greatest of respect. But people are talking about North, and everyone is obsessed with how relevant North is, and that just makes us more relevant. Do you know what I mean? We live rent-free in so many people's heads. So it's a time thing. No one likes to be patient. Everyone in this day and age, everyone wants instant gratification. Everyone wants things right now. And that is just not how it works with football. And North's never really had a proper rebuild before. I mean, we topped up a lot in the Brad Scott era. I think we wasted 3 or 4 years between Shaw and Noble. And now we've actually got the right people on and off field to be able to genuinely lead us forward. And I think we will get there. I definitely think we'll get there. And I think that Clarko will see us through this period, whether he takes us all the way or whether he passes the baton over to somebody else, like a Ruse Goodwin situation. We'll wait and see. But I'm happy for now. And I think, I felt like the first half of the season we were just building and we we're just trying to find the right balance, and everyone was trying to click. And we saw on Saturday night it clicked. Now, how we go for the rest of the year, don't know, but it just seems like maybe we'll be able to be a little bit more competitive as the weeks go on, and hopefully bank a few more wins for the year.
I think you nailed it. I mean, I think one of the pressures Clarkson brings is his record. And I think the media kind of played it as he's going to walk into Arden Street. You're going to go from bottom 4 to suddenly mixing it with Sydney, Collingwood, Geelong, because he's a genius. I feel like that goes against Clarkson as well. I think people see his name and think he's going to snap his fingers and shit players become superstars all of a sudden and the system's good. And I do feel sorry for him a bit, because I think you nailed it, because Shadow Light, what coach doesn't swear? When they fined him for swearing at an umpire, I was like, Jesus, don't watch some of my lives.
Literally, I'm sorry, but he's literally just a North Nuffy like the rest of us. I swear good and bad every week at the football. We all do. It's an emotion. It's emotion of the game. I'd rather someone be sucked into the emotion of it than someone like, David Teague or David Teague. Sorry. David Teague's just sitting there staring into oblivion, or Ree Shaw sitting there staring into oblivion. Do you know what I mean? So for me, swear all you like, Clarko. I'm right behind you.
No, I agree. And we come on to probably a good thing, because the AFL did a survey. They did a survey. So for those who haven't seen the survey, I do think I've got it here in my box of tricks. I usually do. But the AFL did a survey and the AFLW talking about the matters that affect the players, which I thought was a real good thing. But like the AFL media, like Marnie has said, they focus on negative stuff. They don't focus on anything that we could learn from. But I found it interesting that 68% and 58% of the women said mental health was an issue. And half of the men and just under half of the women said social media was a big issue for them. And we're in the social media game. We know it's toxic. Do you think the AFL do enough to protect the players from that social media feedback?
Well, I think the mental health and social media thing go hand in hand, right? And does it surprise you that those came out as the top? Like, it doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest. Yes and no. Like, realistically, and it's hard. Like, realistically, what can the AFL actually do? You don't need a license. I fucking wish you needed a license to use social media, right?
Amen.
Maybe they'd strip mine, actually, to Delulu. But no, seriously, like, we'd be the first two to have our licenses taken off us. People can come on social media.
I'd be suspended.
And say, oh, yeah, banned for life. It'd be like, you're banned for a year every time you mention Hugh Greenwood. See you guys later. No. But like, seriously, anyone can sign up and use social media, and like, we call it out when we see it. Anyone who's traceable, they usually do get a ban of some sort. But like, you tell me, like, realistically, what can we actually do to stop it? I know that sounds awful, but like, I'm sure you've experienced, your fair share of backlash on social media. I've certainly experienced my fair share of backlash on social media, and I don't even think I'm that controversial. I mean, I just, sometimes I have a moment, but for the most part, I'm pretty vanilla. But I don't. We all cop it, and so what really can be done? I don't know. I don't know what more the AFL can actually do, to be honest.
You speak to some players. I don't know if they've ever. I've had the fortune in my position to players show me DMs they get, and like I'm weird because I actually find abuse funny. Like, I can take humor in some of the things that have been said to me. Believe it or not, they're quite harsh, but I actually have a good chuckle at them. I'm like, he's put a bit of effort into that. I rate that. Well done. Like fair play.
Do you rate them? Like, do you have a scale? Like a scale?
Yeah, I do.
Like, how
I do. But like,
if
there's a bit of research, I'm like, that's quite clever. Well done. Like, I'll give you that one. But I often think that the AFL, because I'm sure you know this, when you try and get a player on the podcast and stuff, there is so many loopholes to go through. And even if they really want to, it's got to go through various departments to be approved. And it's not as simple as a player saying, look, I want to come on. I actually think that's the issue. I think we don't get to see enough of the players being humans. So I think we kind of, it's like 30 years ago, soccer in England, we kind of put them as heroes. But when you actually speak to the footballers, they are boring as shit.
Very normal.
Yeah, like really boring people.
Okay, well, who are you mixing with? Because I wouldn't say any of my football friends are boring.
No, but what I mean is, though, they're not like going to VIP nightclubs and living their life.
They're just mostly down to earth.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? They're having a pizza after the game and drinking a chocolate milk. Like, you know what I mean? Or they're watching maths or something like that. Like, that they are normal. No, but they're normal human beings.
I know what you mean. Yeah. No. I know what you mean. But we do put them on a pedestal. It's funny. I lived in Perth and for about a year and a bit, and like, footballers are genuine rock stars over in Perth. I don't know if anyone watching is from Perth. I have the pleasure of living over in WA. But they're treated like rock stars. You know what I mean? So it's, yes, I do agree with you. I mean, Charlie Convent, he's someone who, we have a really special relationship, Chom and I, and we've been family friends for quite a while. And we did a live show with Further North at the start of the season, and he came on the show. And I mean, I was very fortunate. I could just sort of say, hey, do you want to come? Would you do this with us? And he said, yeah, of course. And then, he's done things for the pod since, and he and I do speak fairly regularly. And they're just players at the end of the day. And, you know, it is hard though with social media, because I don't know if you ever watched like on TikTok or you've gone on, you know, Instagram or this or that, and, you know, someone's had an interaction with a player and the first thing they would do would be film themselves and be like, this is why so-and-so was rude to me, or this is why so-and-so was, you know, this was my experience with them, and like we'll out them or like kind of like look to antagonize them. What are you doing? Like it's actually it's ridiculous. I'm a journalist in my past life, and I interviewed Patrick Dangerfield when I was at the Geelong Advertiser, and he said to me, "Oh, is this going on record?" I said, "Yes." And then we had a chat after. And he's just so, I mean, everyone knows like Patrick Dangerfield is he's definitely one of the more colourful characters and a lot more charismatic than a lot of other players in the competition. Because I just don't think he's afraid. Like, I just don't think he cares. Like, I think he's just really happy to just be himself and no filter. And he just kind of cops it. And that's so, like, that's what makes him, well, I think I love Patrick Dangerfield. I'm sure other people don't. But I think that's what kind of, because he doesn't give a shit. And I think less players need to care. But then it comes back to that whole thing of the social media and the pressure. And we want players to be themselves. We want them to have a personality. We want them to stand out. But then at the same time, if they do or say something we don't like, it's like they're on the chopping block straight away. And they can't win. So it's just probably easier for them to be robots and shut their mouths. But, you know, just be nice to players.
I just think that, yeah, I think that the AFL needs to push them to be a little bit more. Like some of the players, like I've had the dealings with, like they are fascinating individuals. Do you know what I mean? Like off the football ground, they have weird hobbies. Do you know what I mean? Weird passions, quirky little things they like. And that's the big thing that changed me as a podcaster. When I started to have relationships with them, I realized these guys are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old men who still ring their mum to ask what setting do I put the microwave on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and it hit me, Jesus, you are just a kid. And I'm thinking of you as a 38-year-old man who's been there and seen it. I feel like, I feel sorry for them. I feel like they are literally expected to talk football and then go back into their box, and we bring them out 100%. When the ball comes out.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with Besties. Like, obviously I'm a footy enough and like I love it, and I'm on a podcast and every single week we talk about North Melbourne for like 1.5 to 2 hours, right? No matter, and we've lost most of our games for the season. But with Besties, like we go and we talk about other things. You know, we talk about what wheat bix, you know, how do you have your wheat bix, and then, you know, like what's your favorite song, or like this or that. Like, it's so different. It's got nothing to do with football, but I think they really enjoy it. When I started doing the Besties, I like I said, I'm very fortunate. I do have a very good relationship with a lot of the players. I hadn't been to the club for a few weeks, and I went to a function, a club function. So obviously, you know, it's just no microphones, like nothing like that. It's just there to have a good time and to chat with them and whatever. And a few of the players were like, oh, like, when are you coming back? Like, what questions do you have for us next week? And like, they enjoy it because it's something different. It's something fun. Nothing to do with football. It's just, you know, it's a bit of fun and they can just be themselves. And it's so funny you say that, going back to that comment about thinking that all of these guys are idols. Like, I'm older than most of them. And like, I look at George Wardler and I'm like, George, I idolize you. Like, I look up to you. And it's not hard to, I'm 5'3", so it's not hard to look up to most of the players anyway, because they're so much taller than me. But also, like, sometimes it's so hard to forget, like, you worship these players, and like they're just kids. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's hard not to get caught up in it though, because, you know, for you or I and anyone watching, I mean, we're all nuffies, you know.
I agree, and it's something I feel strongly about that. Like, I look at the Besties, what you do, and it's no surprise that they enjoy it, because I've been to a lot of these functions, and like, I ask weird questions. When I sit with a player, I couldn't give less of a shit about their football ability. I just want to talk to them about. I remember talking to Jacob Whittaker and Dom McCoo about FIFA, the computer game, and we all pulled out our phones and started showing each other the teams, and it was the most excited I'd seen Jacob Whittaker in. Like, I'd never seen him actually get around something, because this was something that he took part in. And I think it's important, because we've seen it though, haven't we? There was that podcast a couple of weeks ago where the player made the impressions and did the impressions and took the piss and he was banned. And that's what I feel bad about the AFL. When these players do, dare I say it, show a bit of personality, they're instantly ridiculed. Ginnivan is a great example. He danced
100%.
on TikTok and then he did that silly TikTok trend and that's kind of died. But we kind of want the players to be a bit more human, I think.
I think so too, but then that's super interesting, right? So let's flip it. Let's talk about Rory Lobb for a second. I feel like Rory Lobb's been one of the most talked about players all season for just being a flop, okay, respectfully. But his partner is incredibly present on social media and gets him involved in a lot of her videos, and he gets crucified for it. But then Josh Dacos's girlfriend, Annalise, does the same thing. He's not really as involved. Like, he doesn't sit there and do, rehearse dances and stuff with her. He's just sort of featured. And so it's like, well, when their on-field performance starts to get scrutinized, but then on TikTok he's, dancing around and doing whatever again, it's like, well, where are your priorities? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's such an interesting conversation, because at the same time, like pop off Rory Lobb, like, can definitely move better than I can. But then also, like, he's sitting there talking about moving on to a fourth club because he's not doing it at the Bulldogs. So it's like, where, again, it's like, where's the line? Like, where do you draw I don't know. I just think the sun shines out of every North Melbourne player's ass. They can barely do anything wrong in my eyes. So I'm the wrong person to ask when it comes to that. But you know what I mean? It's just, it's we could sit here and talk about it all day, because footy is a very different game now than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
It's one of the funniest things, because I did actually see the other day, I was chatting to a good mate of mine who used to be at Carlton Football Club, but Charlie Kerno posted on his stories after we beat Port, him going into a liquor shop, and he had a 24-pack of lemonade vodkas.
Yeah.
And we were actually having a back and forth, because he sent me the picture and he was saying, do you remember 2 years ago when we lost? And there was a group photo and someone commented, no wonder we're shit. They've all got a beer in their hand. And I was like, it's weird how the narrative has changed, because Carlton are winning. Charlie doing an advert for his mate's lemonade company is funny. But 2 years ago, them having a beer for someone's birthday, that was the reason we lost, because they were having a beer.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's like at the end of a North game, right? Like, we've just been pelted by 10 goals. And then if some of the North players are just like having a chat amongst each other, or they're talking to the opposition players who they're friends with and they're having a laugh after the game, it's like, well, he doesn't give a shit. Why is he? Or they're at the airport and they're having a laugh. It's like, why is he laughing? It's like, fuck, maybe he just made a funny joke and you caught him in the moment, mate. Like, it's a tough day to be you. Like, it's not that deep. Like, yeah, okay, it is deep. Okay, like, I literally will be depressed for a week if North don't win. I've literally been on like an emotional high for the last 48 hours after the way that North, performed. And yeah, okay, like, to you and I, we pay good money for membership, and we, dedicate time and effort into watching the team every week, and we're invested. But like, really, 24 hours after a loss and a player's at the airport, and I've had messages from people, oh my God, like, I've seen him at the airport, he's not happy. Shoot him. So fucking shoot him. Like, big deal. Big deal, mate. It's depressing, okay? We all got to find a way to get through it and have a laugh. Please.
It is one of my favorite things when you hear someone say, he was having a beer, and I'm like, you have a bad day at work, what's the first thing you do? Like, you usually pour yourself a drink.
Crack open. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah. It's amazing social media. They want the player to go home, watch the replay, and cry himself to sleep. And it's like, well, do you do that when you have a bad day? Like, do you go out and drink and ignore it and forget and pretend it never happened and you'll deal with it Monday?
And just decompress a little bit. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's a hard gig. It is a hard gig. And they've got to be able to also decompress, and they've also got to be able to, like, just enjoy a little bit too. Like, it's tough, and I want to find a way to make it fun, and you want to find a way to make it fun in 2018. And if a drink here or there, or just being delusional all the time, that's the coping mechanism, then so be it. Like, what can I say?
I love it. I love it, Marnie. I think you've nailed it. Well, we come on to everyone's favourite segment where we do some silly games. So I don't know if you're familiar with the famous game Snog, Marry, Avoid. We've got we've got our own version, Ben's Trade Play, which is AFL related, and it doesn't get us cancelled, right? So that's very important. It's very important.
Here we go.
So what we do is we are going to find you 3 players to bench, trade, and play. So we go to our famous randomizer wheel, and it'll pick us 3 names. So we have got the first name is this is going to be tough. It's Toby Green is the first name. So we've got Toby Green. Oh, you're going to start him. I like Marnie's done this blind. I rate that. Darcy Moore from Collingwood Football Club.
Okay.
So we've got Toby Green, Darcy Moore, and the final name. Oh, that could have been very dangerous. It was nearly Cripps, but it's Harry Himmelberg. So you've got Harry Himmelberg, Toby Green, and Darcy Moore. 2 big defenders and a wispy forward.
I'll play Toby. I'll bench Das, and I'll trade Harry.
Darcy Moore. What? He's on the bench. Is he going to captain though? Still, even though you've benched him.
Well, Toby Green's my captain every day of the week.
Which of them 3 players?
Sorry, Darcy. I'm so sorry, but you play for Carlton. You play for Collingwood, and I'm a Carlton person, so there's no way that you're starting in my team. Okay.
Which of them 3 players would you love to see at your club?
Oh, take all of them. I'd take half of each.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what's depressing about that is that there was the off-season Harry Himmelberg was linked to North, and he would have been great for us. I mean, we have Aiden Core stepped up now, and Charlie Convins, had a great season, and Cal Dawson's, a superstar from nowhere out of 5 games. So we're actually fine. It's all good. It's all right, Harry. Look, Darcy Moore, I think anyone would want to take Moore or Green, right? I think all 3 of them would be handy in North. I don't think North can really afford to be knocking back anyone at this stage, if I'm honest.
I've got to admit, Toby Green is one of them people that you'd love him to play for your club. I just don't think you like him when he plays you. He's one of them players that you'd love to have him.
Well, it's the divisive personality. And, it's really interesting, right, with Toby Green. I think, so Lindsay Thomas was a very, very controversial player at North back in the time. Incredibly talented and, like, criminally underrated. He kicked over 350 goals and he played over 200 games for North. He was picked 53 back in the day, right? So, like, just came from nowhere. He was one of the most passionate people to ever put on the jumper. And everyone thought he was a dog because he'd snipe left, right, and centre. But that's just passion. I feel like Toby Green's the same, but probably, he's a better player, obviously. And so I think that's where that kind of comes from. Do you know what I mean?
I'm bad. I think it's my football background from the UK. I like a shithouse footballer. So like players like Adam Goods. I loved Adam Goods, not because he was so skillful, but because he was such a twat when he was playing the game. But
that's passion.
Love it. Like I want more of that. I like the dirty little bumps off the ball and the sticking fingers up at the opposition fans. Like I like arsehole. It's a big
someone
key
who's going to rival them up, because I think that's how like every time you put on the jumper, like I know that man is going to just play heart and soul. And that's the kind of player Lindsay Thomas was. And that's the kind of player that Toby Green is. And that's why people don't like him. But, like, just stop thinking about that. Like, stop, like, do you know what I mean? Like, actually just get another perspective on it. You know what I mean? Like that. And that is all it is.
We haven't seen it in the AFL yet, but that's how I fell in love with Chin Cotter at the practice game against Collingwood, because he jumper punched Braden Maynard and caught him in the guts. but he did it.
He's taking one for the whole AFL world, isn't he?
Yeah, but he did it behind play, and it was the way he like absolutely denied it to the umpire, and it turned me on because obviously there was no cameras. It was like him denying, and like it was this look of fake shock, and I was like, I love that. Like, I rate that. That's me and my brothers in the back garden.
Boomer did that right one year. We played Fremantle over in Perth, and Boomer and Ryan Crowley, they had a really interesting on-field like narrative because Crowley always used to tag Boomer and actually used to get the better of him on most occasions. Anyway, Crowley gave away a free kick against Boomer, and he had the ball behind his back, and then Boomer knocked it out of his hand, and the umpire didn't see it, thought that Crowley had just thrown it on the floor and gave Boomer the 50-meter penalty.
I love that.
It's so good. It's creative, but hey, I mean, worked to his benefit. So good.
One of the moments this season, I can't remember who it was, but it was against Geelong who threw the ruckman's shoe. Do you remember that? I think Blitzarves was in the ruck. His shoe came off, and I think it was the Doggies. One of the players picked up the shoe and threw it across the ground. So Blitzarves couldn't go in the ruck.
Great.
I
just do anything at this point.
And it turned me on so much because I was like, it's such a childish, stupid thing to do, but it's so funny. Like
it's so funny. You can sit here and laugh about it now. Like it's not that funny deep. It's hilarious.
But yeah, I love it. I love it. Juddy, you know me too well. Do you know what I mean? I loved Wayne Rooney as well. Yeah, anyone who's a bit of a dickhead, I like my dickheads.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
More dickheads in sport. But we come to the most important thing. This is the biggest trophy in sporting history, the Pombardi Trophy. It's like the Brownlow, but we don't care if you're a naughty boy and you get suspended. And it's good fun when we do it with fans because this is where being a nuffy is really worshipped. So you can see here our leaderboard at the moment. Cripper has managed to sneak ahead, but he's followed for a Carlton fan favourite. Nick Dacos is still quite high. Nick Dacos is second. The Hoops crew managed to warp it with Jeremy Cameron, but we've got Mackay there, Bontempelli, Max Gorn, Sam Walsh. Some names here. I do think there is a North, here we are, look. Bit of North love.
There we go. Chum and cheese, two of my boys.
I think every club is now officially represented as well on here, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Pretty sure I saw North Melbourne legend Jason Horne-Francis down the bottom there as well.
He did. I do believe they were Mrs. Pom's votes as well, because I actually just this is where we'll bond. I can't fucking stand him.
Oh, mate. You've never seen a weaker personality than Jason Horne-Francis. My God.
Like Jason Horne-Francis could have 60 and kick 8, and I still wouldn't have him in my votes. Just FYI. But actually can't stand the bloke. Can't stand him. But there it is. But we're here to do our 5 votes. So I'll start with your 1 vote for the week. Who did you like, Marnie?
So I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I've watched 2 games of football this weekend, and I thought it probably wouldn't be right to put anyone else in there outside of the games I watched because I can't give you an educated opinion. So there's only 2 clubs that feature in my top 5 for the round.
I like it. No, I like it.
I've given the 1 vote to Harry Sheasel from North Melbourne.
Okay, so to match you, I went Lockie Neal. I did like Lockie Neal's game. He's another guy that I find hard to like, Lockie Neal.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's I quite like Lockie Neal.
Yeah, there's some players he looks like the kind of kid that he reminds me of like year 11 formals. Whenever you went to the toilet, he'd chat up your girlfriend.
Okay, fair. It's a very unique reference, but I do get that. I get that.
Yeah, he definitely is. He definitely, I reckon, has controversial call. I reckon he's definitely chatted up a mate's girlfriend.
Well, wasn't there that whole thing at Brisbane at the start of the year? Something on that Vegas trip. I don't know if he was specifically involved. I don't want to start rumours now, but there were rumours left, right, and centre.
If
something went down there.
If I've accidentally revealed that, that's brilliant.
You're putting us on the map tonight for me.
If I've deduced that, but I do love Sheasel, though. I've got to say, Sheasel was one of my favourites in the draft. He is such a nice guy.
He's a great guy. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know what's so great about Harry Sheasel and why he and I are both so great?
Go on.
And humble.
Go on.
So Harry Sheasel and I went to the same school. There's your fun fact. There's your Monday night fun fact, everyone.
Oh, tell you what.
Two North Melbourne legends, myself and Shees.
I've got to say, the work he does in his community and stuff as well, a young boy with a community behind him. I'm a big fan of him. He's a very mature boy as well. Very great. He's not as showy as Nick Dacos, but probably more intelligent than Nick Dacos.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah. I'd say so.
Who's your 2 votes, man?
Alex Chincotta.
Oh. Yeah. You know what? I don't think Alex Chincotta's featured on here, and as Alex Chincotta super fan, that makes me a bad man. So thank you.
Well, there you go. My part-time Carlton head is showing well and truly.
He was absolutely brilliant this week. We do love the return of the Jagger.
He was fabulous.
I went TDK. That I thought he was a pretty good. You've got a good young ruck there, haven't you? Tristan Jerry as well. But I thought TDK was fantastic as well.
Interesting with TDK because I feel because I actually didn't mind because I was at the game last night. I didn't mind Goldstein in the ruck himself, right? His ruck work was excellent, but very fumbly and very slow. And it's interesting because I was a massive. I really criticised North at the end of last year for letting him go. I just didn't think that Tristan Sherry had it in him to ruck full time. I just was like, I don't see it. I genuinely, and hand on heart, I can say that's one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made because he has been unbelievable for us this season. Still has some work to do, in my opinion. His work around the ground, and he probably could have more of an impact around the ground. But he matched up on Goldstein when we played Essendon a few weeks ago and monstered him. And while Goldie I thought was solid in the ruck last night, TDK just ran rings around him all around the ground. And so it's interesting now. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, and it turns out that North definitely made the right call there. So yeah, I thought TDK was huge. I think he's been doing a really good job in the ruck as well. Obviously, with Pittenet's not there, and it's actually kind of working almost better for the Blues at the moment.
He's going very well, and I mean, I do think we've got to remember as well. Goldstein is impressive because I think Goldstein is proof Bigfoot exists because that guy moves unworldly. I have never seen anyone move like him.
And I mean, he was one of my favorite players at North. And I was sad to see him leave. I can understand why he did. No offense to him. I hope he doesn't get any of the success that he left for because I bloody hate Essendon, and that's just one club that I never want to see succeed. I'm sorry if there's any Essendon fans listening, but also not really, to be honest. But it's he in his prime for North. I mean, there's so many games where he won off his own boot. And, I had the pleasure of watching him in his prime. So now I've got the pleasure of watching Helmet Sherry instead, and his chase down on Liam Ryan, which will live rent free in my head until further notice.
I love it. Now, your free votes, you're going to love me for my free vote, but who have you gone with free votes?
You're going to love me for my 3 votes. I've gone Elijah Hollands with 3 votes.
Oof, Lidge, the prophet. We are a big fan of Elijah Hollins, and probably the best off-season recruit.
He was best on last night. He was everywhere and more. Excellent performance.
We like his brother as well. He's a big friend of the channel. His brother is Oliver, so it's good to see them both. There, I went your superstar forward. It's taken me a long time to like Nick Larkey, because of what he did to Jacob Wheelarin a couple of years ago. But absolutely superstar, isn't he? Absolutely brilliant.
He is. And yes, he was probably the reason why Wethers did not make the All-Australian side that year, kicking 7 on him.
I'd say
sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry.
I might want to take credit for that, because there's 2 times I've done a preview with Terry, and there's 2 famous cases where I've absolutely slagged off a player. One of them was Peter Laddams against Port when he played for them, and Peter Laddams had like 55 hitouts and kicked 4. But we did the preview against North that year, and I remember saying Nick Larkey's just a shit version of Harry Mackay. And
Joke's on you.
I was going to say about 2 minutes into the second quarter when he kicked his 7th, I looked like a big idiot.
Great. Yeah, because I honestly think, because there was such outrage when Wethers didn't make the, was it 2019 when Wethers didn't make the All-Australian side that year, that year, and it was, you can't let Nick Larkey kick 7 and then expect to make the All-Australian.
To be fair to Wheelarin, every year he's missed it, he's had like a moment versus like a forward that's probably not rated at the time, and it seems like it's just a bad. He has like that one bad day, and it seems to be remembered. Like I'm more scared, Jacob Wheelarin, if you put him on Levi Casbolt, I'd be more worried than if you put him on Jeremy Cameron. Like, honestly, that's how I am mentally. Like, if you, like, I'd fancy if you put me against Jacob Wheelarin, I might kick 6. Like, do you know what I mean? But you gave him a good forward, he'll probably eat them.
Honestly, I just want to forget Levi Casbolt ever existed.
Old Levi.
Oh, God.
He was one of my favourite ex-Cal. And honestly, you know, the other day, I don't know if you ever do this, it's a fun game. When you get good again, Marnie, play this game, because I really enjoy it. Going through players who were on your list who have played more than 50 games, and then asking yourself, how the fuck did you get a job?
More than 50. Shaun Utley played more than 250 games for North and never got an accolade in his career.
But it's such a good game. It's such a good game when you see a name and you're like, fucking hell, how did he play football?
But then there's me, and I'll be like, oh, do you remember that one thing he did?
Yeah.
I'll always find the positives. It's fine. I'll always find the positives.
But it is a really good game when you just go back and you're like, Jesus Christ, he played for us. I didn't.
When we get good again, what do you mean? We just won on the weekend. Lids are off. If you go out on my nature strip, there's all my lids sitting out there.
I love it. I love it. Your 4 votes, who did you go?
Nick Larkey.
The Suvlarkey, he's in.
Yeah.
He's in. He's in. My 4 votes, I went Maximus Gawn. I watched the game today. He's the best ruckman in the league.
Sorry, that was harsh. What a terrible game.
It wasn't a great game.
Max Gawn is a superstar. To be fair, though, I really am enjoying Brodie Grundy's season. And I mean, look, it helps that the Swans are up and about too. But I mean, the way he's been able to, resurrect his career, pretty impressive.
No, I agree. People asking about Hipwood. I can't put someone in the votes whose nickname's Shitwood on the streams. Like, it's his one good game, his career, and I can't. I thought about it, but Marnie, we come to 5 votes. This is very important. Who did you go?
There's only one player that I could give 5 votes to, and that was my captain, Jai Simpkin.
Oof. You know what? One of the nicest guys, when I was out in Werribee, he was having a coffee with a good friend of the channel. We haven't seen him debut for you yet, but he is an incredibly good footballer. I hope he stays fit. Braden George. But Simpkin might be one of the nicest.
Braden George.
He might be one of the nicest human beings, though, Jai Simpkin, because he was really, really friendly when I said hello. And
he's great.
I think he was more.
He's a great guy.
You could see he was shocked that I didn't care about him. I cared about Braden George. Like, you could see his brain was like, this is weird.
Why does he care more about Braden George? Hey, I'd be pretty excited to see Braden George out in the street. I'm a big Braden George fan.
How is he going? Is he still injured?
No, he's fit. He's back in the VFL. I hope we get to see him debut in the next few weeks. And I actually, so he sort of has been moved. He was back and then forward, and he's sort of been trialled in both positions. I think a spot will open up for him up forward to have a crack. That we've got Paul Curtis and Eddie Ford, who both are very serviceable. But then unfortunately, we've kind of got that last hole that just we can't seem to fill it. I mean, Stevenson's had a pretty rocky season. He's been very up and down. And I don't even know who else you'd put in there. Cooper Harvey hasn't really come on just as yet. That's Boomer's son. We picked up Robert Hanson Jr. in the mid-season draft last year. Hasn't really done much either. So I hope that now that he's fit, we do get to see him debut in the coming weeks. I think now the issue for North, which is a good problem to have, is now we've actually got balance, and now there seems to be there's a few guys who were really, really impressive in the VFL over the weekend, but now we've got a side that's just one, and pretty much everyone's played their role. And I think that having a group that can kind of stick together and make as little changes now is going to be key for us to be able to string any sort of success together. So it kills me because Hugh Greenwood's sitting in the VFL, and I would actually donate my left arm to see Hugh Greenwood play in the seniors. Hugh Greenwood's played 3 senior games this year, and none of them have been in Melbourne. I feel like it's like a personal attack on me, which I know it's not, but you can't help but think that it is, as the chairwoman of the Hugh Greenwood fan club. So
you have to put some strongly worded emails to North Melbourne, I reckon, from you.
So Charlie Convent, he didn't play his first game until Gather Round in round 4, and in rounds 2 and 3, we teamed up with the North Closer to a Flower guys and ran a campaign to try and get Chom into the side, and it worked. And then I did it with Greenwood, and it actually worked the week that it started as well. So I might need to bring that campaign back. And maybe put a phone call into Clarko to get him back into the side. But back to that, it's one of those things that's challenging. Like someone like Braden George, I'd love to see him debut. But on the flip side, I want to avoid making too many changes now, unless they're forced changes, because I want to see this group. They've clearly starting to get a bit of a synergy together, and they're sort of starting to all play together as a team. So I think that's it's important to have that continuity and that consistency, but you also need to find time and space to reward the players that deserve it. So long story short, hopefully we get him in before the end of the year.
I hope to see Big Braid in there. Still my selection. I do remember doing his draft and boldly saying whoever gets him gets a top 5 player when we redraft it. Like, I'm a big fan of, that's how big I rate Big Braid. Okay. And he is a very good footballer. Very good footballer. If he can stay fit, I hope he can. I hope he stays fit now.
If his debut game is here, will you come with me to the game?
100%. Go on. I'll be an honorary Roo.
Done. Will you kanga for me?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah. Kanga.
Roo.
There we go. Got practice. We got time to practice. My 5 vote, Bevton, you're gonna hate me because I had to give it to Errol Goulden. I'm big on Sydney because I've got my eyes on Sydney. Carlton have got to beat Sydney to win the flag, in my opinion. I think they are good. But seeing lifelong Carlton fan Errol Goulden seem to do what he wants with the ball,
actually breaks my heart. It does break my heart knowing that secretly he's a Carlton fan and he doesn't want to do it for them. But he is a sensational footballer, Errol Gulden. I do enjoy watching him play.
The Swans are looking really scary. Like they're looking scary good.
I promise the world, Marnie, they don't win the flag this year, though.
Why? Oh, Baggers are winning it. Sorry, I forgot.
No, I never said Carlton would. I just guaranteed.
I did. That's fine.
I like it. I just said there is no way on God's green earth Sydney do it. I did it last year with Port, if you remember, and Port fans kept reminding me. I was like, I will retire from YouTube if Port win the flag. That's how confident. I'm still not that confident with Sydney to make that bet, but I will go as far as I guarantee it. They will win the flag.
Port always fall over when it matters, though. So I feel like you could definitely say that.
Oh, trust me, you should have seen the comment section, Marnie. People, like, literally every time they won, I said it after, like, round 6, and, like, literally every time they would be in the DMs going, oh, this idiot's going to quit when we win the flag. And I'm like, I promise you won't. I promise you won't. And they soon went quiet.
You're still here.
Out. But
jokes on
every
you.
week. But you know what? Ari's in chat. Our wonderful Ari, long Greek name. Good day to you, mate. Good mate. Good mate is Ari. I do love Ari. He's criticising. I think he's alluding to you being biased. I'm actually impressed you've got 2 Carlton people in there, Mams.
Me? Biased? Never, Ari. Come on.
Like when you did say, can I go full Nuff? I was expecting all North Melbourne. So I'm stoked we've got some Carlton players there. And I'm a little bit... I'm disappointed in myself. You've picked 2 of my boys and I didn't.
It's so funny, right? So I never really cared about other clubs either way before this season. And then starting to work with the Besties, I was just like, I need to sort of find a way to make, this is another tip to make footy fun when your team sucks, right? So I'm like a genuine part-time Carlton supporter. I've been to like 5 or 6 Carlton games so far this year, right? So as Ari said, I'm a 45% Carlton. Literally, I'm so invested. I accidentally call them we. Like if I'm talking to a Carlton supporter, I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine. We've got this. Like we'll win. It's all good. Like last time, I'm like, yeah, don't worry, it's fine. We'll win. All good.
I admire that. I the team I hate. You know, you always have a hate. I think hate is big. I find Essendon the team that I hate the most, and it's not.
Yeah, me too.
It's not rivalry either. It's not like the rivalry of Carlton and Essendon.
No, they're just fucking annoying.
Yeah, I find it by the fans I meet online in my DMs and stuff like that. Like it's weird. Yeah. Collingwood are our rivals, but I genuinely find 99% of Carlton fans I engage with who are Collingwood are all right. Like, they give me a bit of shit, but they're genuinely respectful throughout the year unless we play them. Yeah. But Essendon, it's just like every time one DMs me, it's always a dickhead message.
Oh my God. Seriously.
I don't get why.
How boring.
But yeah,
it's true. It's so true. I think most people would be with you on that. North fans seem to get like weirdly bad raps, and I'm like, why? We're so shit. It's like kicking a puppy. Like, come on.
I've got to say, North fans, I've never had a bad one. I've never had a bad one.
There aren't any bad ones.
Like they've always been good banter and good to talk to. But Marnie, what are you doing this week? I've got your link in the description, so go and see Marnie on the Further North pod. She is honestly, she's well worth a watch. Win, lose or draw, she brings the energy, and it's good to see. But what are you doing this week, Marnie? Where can we find you?
So we recorded our winners podcast. It's already out, which is so exciting. So you can listen to that on all podcasting, where you got all your good podcasts, or on YouTube as well. If you want to watch myself and Josh, we also live on YouTube. So I'm there. If you want to watch me, watch the last 2 minutes of the North Eagles game, then you can also watch that on Besties Footy. That is quite literally one of the... And I forgot the camera was there too. So my dad and I watched the game together. And my mum came into my parents' living room 10 minutes before the end of the game and said, "All right, we're going for dinner." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Dad, where the hell do you think you're going?" And then he's just looking at me like he's got major regret. So I was sitting there by myself at my parents' house watching the last 10 minutes of the game, right? So we were chatting, the besties were chatting at halftime, and they're like, "Marnie," we're up at halftime, and they're like, "Marnie, surely you do a video post game." And I was like, "All right, I'll do something like, feeling good. So I was like, "Do you know what? I'll just let the camera roll and just see what happens." And it's literally just me sobbing about how much I love Aiden Core for like a good 30 seconds. And then it's me just like hyperventilating and like just, yeah. It's a hot mess. So you can find that on Besties Footy as well. So Further North Pod's already out. Besties Footy's already out. If anyone is coming to the game on Sunday, we play Collingwood Sunday 1:10. I will be there pre-game with the mini mic with my epic Besties question for this weekend. And then I'll also be up the game for anyone who's there and wants to say hello. And you'll probably see me walking the streets of Melbourne and North Melbourne scarf for the whole week now.
I love it. Well, the links are in there. Big Judy has subscribed. And Bev Tone,
Oh, thank you.
Great question. We have a special members live on Thursday and Sunday. You've got 2 this week. We've got one hot draft 20, and then we've got a special video that I can't talk about, but we have a special guest taking you through some stuff. Loads planned though this week in the week off. We've got a count and best 23 with the selection panel who will be on. So we'll be going through that, imagining what it looks like when we don't have injuries. Loads of other fun stuff. But Marnie, you have been an absolute delight and pleasure. I can't wait to go and cheer on Braden George with you. So North, get him in the team. But thank you very much for joining me. Yeah. You've been a delight.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks everyone, and go Blues. I'll see you at the MCG in 2 weeks for the Geelong game.
I love it. Go Blues, go North.